Hi everyone. So here is Moonrise Hall and Adrian Gibson, and we're meeting together to talk about Virgo new moon. Hello, Adrian.
Hi,
Nice.
Mila. How are you?
I'm okay.
Good.
How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. Ready to make some adjustments.
Oh yeah, for sure. With the Virgo new moon, that's exactly what we're making.
Yeah, yeah. Um, yeah, it's been an interesting journey over the last couple of weeks, sort of revisiting some old patterns that I've had. And I think I noticed that it began happening as Pluto moved retrograde. So I just started to go back over some stuff that I thought I had moved beyond, but nope.
It's coming around again. It's coming around
It's
again.
coming around again. So I'm looking at where I have been through the last few weeks, several weeks, couple months really. And now I'm ready to um yeah, make some adjustments to move forward. So that's what I think this new moon is about.
The
We
seeding the direction of the future through making adjustments in the present moment.
Absolutely, absolutely. So yeah, that's what I've been experiencing. And then looking at the moon, it was just interesting to write out all the details and see why and what the direction we're headed. So I'm looking forward to talking about that.
Yep, let's unpack it.
Okay, let me bring up the chart. There it is for Eastern Standard Time.
Awesome. For me, it will be just after midnight here in the UK on September 3rd.
Okay. Ah, all right. Well, there we see the new moon at 11 degrees and 4 minutes of Virgo, opposing Saturn, which I
Oh, yeah.
think is kind of interesting there. Um, and then Pluto having moved back into Capricorn. I think it moved back into as we were
It's we
recording.
recording this. Yeah, it's gonna
As
move
we're
back into
recording, it's moved back in. So I think that's interesting, which means it's sitting on my sun.
Yes, yes.
More change. But I see Capricorn as, I mean, there's a lot of energies, but it's like responsibility. It's about creating boundaries. It's about being responsible for yourself. And I think that Pluto through Capricorn has been where we have relied heavily on the outer world to make our decisions and to, say what it is that we're supposed to do and how we're supposed to act. Um, Pluto's been running through Capricorn and dissolving that because ultimately we are to step into our new roles as, humans that are self-driven. And I think this whole 16-year period with Pluto and Capricorn has been helping us. Well, it's been working on two levels. It's helping to erode away the external control as we're all watching the world just become crazy. Um, but at the same time, Saturn being in Pisces is like we're taking responsibility for ourselves in the dissolving that's happening. So it's almost like as things are dissolving on the one side, we are having to, there has to be control somewhere in the balance of it.
Mm.
So from the outside to the inside is how I look about it. And there's some adjustments that need to be made in that process, I think.
Yeah, there is, especially because there is this opposition, and actually, opposition, I mean, the Saturn is opposing the moon. And it's interesting that the Sun Saturn conjunction happened right after the full moon in Virgo, which was the midpoint of the cycle we are just culminating now. Because I remember the date because it was the 2/24/24, the 24th of February 2024, which was all the same numbers. So Sun and Saturn conjuncted on February 28th. That's the last time. And on the same day, we had the Mercury conjunct Saturn and Mercury conjunct Sun. So it was quite a memorable day. And we are in a leap year. So actually, we had the bonus day the day after. We didn't end February with that. But it's interesting because this is the midpoint of that conjunction. And here we see what we didn't potentially all see at that time, because at that time Pluto just ingressed back into a sign of Aquarius for the second time only a month before that. So we started expanding our connection to this Pluto in Aquarius and what it will represent going forward. And as I said, this conjunction between Sun and Saturn happened right after the full moon in Virgo, which gave us the illumination of what this might mean to us with regards to these adjustments. And now we are birthing this first it is not, it's actually the last new moon in Virgo with Pluto in the sign of Capricorn, but this is the introduction to the eclipses in Virgo. Even though this new moon is not an eclipse, the following moon, which will be the full moon in Pisces, will be an eclipse. And this is all preparation for the nodes being in Virgo Pisces axis, which is all about this learning, adjusting, dissolving, and culminating the past, and through that becoming whole by attracting the aspect of ourselves we had to reject throughout the times because they were not, they didn't fit, they didn't fit the times and age. And now with the Pluto in Aquarius, we are all about individuation, which now, of course, Pluto being back into Capricorn, we having the last push of Pluto in Capricorn, but we already had 2 tastes of Pluto in Aquarius, which is giving us the taste of what does it mean for us to be authentic, to be individuated, and what do we need to adjust and change in our everyday mundane reality as humans to bring more of that energy into our life?
Absolutely. I see that. And I see, just because the new moon is in Virgo and Mercury is ruling Virgo, you see Mercury can give us a little bit of the story about what we're adjusting. So in Leo, this is about our authentic self. We are adjusting to incorporate more of our authentic self into the mix, which is interesting because of the experience that I had this last week visiting my family, where I felt like I had to suppress my authentic self. And that kind of disturbed me a bit because I've been working on not doing that. And so I could definitely see how it was a retrograde moment to go back and experience it from another point of view. Very interesting. But yeah, I'm not willing to compromise what it is that I have been growing toward. And, all of the planets, Venus, they've all been through, and actually Mercury, everybody's been through Leo, aligning and attuning ourselves to whatever it is authentic for us, what our true purpose is, our inner child, whatever energy gives us joy. That's the direction that we're headed. And then Mercury retrograded back into Leo, because it was the first one to get into Virgo, went back so that we could pick up some more information about that true self. And so now that Mercury is going forward again, we're bringing with it this new perspective, more perspective of that true self. And linking up with this new moon in Virgo, it helps us to see where the adjustment is about and what it is that we're trying to attempt here.
Absolutely. And I think it's also important to, point out this third and final square between Mercury and Uranus, because Uranus just stationed retrograde, literally also as we recording this, on Sunday, the September the 1st. Uranus just stationed retrograde. Pluto obviously right after moving back into sign of Capricorn. Well, at this stage it's about to happen, and there is this third and final square between Uranus and Mercury, which is coming up next week after this new moon, and this is a crisis in action. So what needs to be changed now? Mercury is the rule of this moon, and Uranus is ruled by Venus, and actually Venus is just about to conjunct South Node for the second time within like 10 months, because she conjuncted South Node at the end of November 2023. So this is the second time Venus, as the rule of the South Node, is conjuncting the South Node, but this is not the same Venus that she was, like at the time of the previous conjunction, because since then Venus had the first conjunction with Pluto in Aquarius. And this is what introduced the new cycle of conjunctions in Aquarius. And Aquarius ruled by Uranus. Uranus at the moment ruled by Venus. Venus is being in a sign of Libra, which again, opposition. Saturn opposing this moon, opposition. So there are a lot of opposing factors, which is really just a contrast, just like, you shared with me with regards to your family situation. And what I said, these people, they represent the contrast. All these people in our reality, they're showing us the contrast, so we can see what we might or might not be in alignment with. Not good and bad, it's just the contrast. So with this Mercury being, making the third and final square to Uranus, and during the first square, they were both direct. Second square, Mercury was retrograde, Uranus was direct. Now Mercury is direct, Uranus is retrograde. So this is now forcing us to go inward with regards to Uranus being retrograde and Pluto being back in Capricorn for the final time, but only staying on 29 degrees. What is it that we need to free ourselves from that created the foundation of our reality until this point, which helped us to survive throughout all these times, Capricorn times, times of our human history, but is no longer in alignment, because we already had the 2 tastes of Pluto in Aquarius that is showing us what it means to be Aquarian. And big part of that, as you said, is that authenticity. And this is where these people are coming around into our reality to show us this contrast more and more, so we know who we were, but who we are no longer. And this is part of these adjustments that we are making.
Absolutely. And I think while we're also having that opposition, that contrast come in, we're also having people come into our lives that actually align with that sense of self that we're moving into. So we're really seeing both energies and literally having to choose the direction forward.
Yeah, and that is the Jupiter in Gemini, ruled by Mercury. Because we have the choice that will take us to the further expansion, or it will just drive us insane, because these things are just rolling in our head over and over again. And we know that Jupiter expands everything it touches, whether positive or negative. So it either will expand these narcissistic tendencies of the unhealed wounding from the childhood and previous generation, which says we are separate, I need to fetch for myself to survive, because this is how it's always been in the history of humankind. But this is not the reality we are co-creating going forward for the Aquarian age. So we can keep rolling over and over in this the same thoughts that are now driving us insane, because they are no longer in alignment with our frequency. And this is why everything is intensifying in the world, our personal life and collective experience at the moment, because we have to make the choice. Do we allow this past that is no longer going to be, I actually channeled this yesterday from Mother Gaia, and because the planet itself is ascending, it's raised frequency. Previously, when the planet was just evolving itself, that it didn't have the consciousness it has now, it was okay for us to have all these wars and fighting, because the planet itself, which we are, part of, obviously, without planet Earth, we wouldn't be here. She can be here without us, but it cannot work the other way around. So it was fine, but now it's no longer in alignment. And this is why we can feel it. We can feel it, that these things that are happening now, that's been happening for thousands of years, these wars and fighting and all this, this been happening for thousands of years, but not before it had not felt so jarring, because people just accept it as a fact of life, that yeah, there are war, there's always been war, and this is what always was happening, and now we are not on that frequency anymore where this is actually in alignment. So it's saying like, no, these energies, they cannot coexist on this planet that is ascending. So we have the choice: we either ascend with the planet, or the reality which we don't have to ascend in, that reality is ending, because Saturn is in Pisces, Neptune is in Pisces. So we have a choice. We either close these old cycles, because this is what is needed for the evolution to continue on this planet, and this evolution on this planet is continuing with or without us. That is without the
Absolutely.
question. So we can either participate in this evolution, which means that we need to match the frequency of the planet and the time of the age of Aquarius, or we don't have to, but that means that just as Saturn and Neptune are culminating in Pisces, so is this timeline.
Yep. Yep. And we're in a place with Saturn and Pisces where we're literally creating our own reality. Which reality are we going to create? Are we going to stay with the one that's been defined for us, where we're experiencing all these wars and starvation of humans and all, the whole mess of it? Or are we going to step into this new realm? And, we all have the choice.
And that is that responsibility which you were talking about, the maturation.
Yes, absolutely. So that's interesting. That is interesting. I've been really fixated on the last couple of weeks, maybe close to a month now, because I was working with the, which was it, Uranus, I think it was the Uranus-Pluto trine that I've been working with for a while, and I can't remember if I mentioned it the last time that we got together, but I went back to see when that original conjunction was, which was the 1966. So this is, and it was in Virgo. So it's interesting that we're beginning something new in Virgo. We have the trine, which kind of like opens the channel to be able to put into action that which we started, which, I mean, it was marked in the United States by the civil rights movement, essentially, that happened, which was an attempt to create equality amongst people. And I think that many of us that have a lot of Virgo in our charts, we tend to feel that energy of it's either inferiority or superiority. We see both sides of the coin. From my perspective, because I have a lot of Virgo in my chart as well, Pluto North Node conjunction. It's like I definitely have the feeling of inferiority that I'm fighting against or trying to work through in this lifetime. But it's interesting that this trine between the two is about, because it's continuing. It's actually going to be there until I think 2029, the trine between Pluto and Uranus. So there's a good period of time for us to work through that. And I think it's interesting what you shared with me, how next year we're going to have the 2 moons in Virgo.
New moons, yes.
New moons in Virgo, which really kind of accentuates that idea that the universe is giving us the opportunity to make these adjustments and really to find equality. When you're looking at this Venus South Node conjunction, this is the energy of ending that cycle, literally, of inequality, where Libra is about the balance between self and other. And so I think we're stepping into this place where we're seeing the last of the inequality. And it really is up to us. We have to make these changes within ourselves, because it's all about perspective, I think.
Yeah.
Am I really, inferior to other people? I don't believe that's true. And I don't believe that there are people that are superior to other people. Everybody's got a purpose and a value. But I don't think that that's the way Pluto and Capricorn has seen it. That's part of what is dissolving in this lifetime.
Yeah,
Where
because
we
then
also, go ahead.
that would not allow for the hierarchical system that the world is built upon at the moment, the have and have nots, because you need to have the superior and inferior ego in action, and this sense of not good enough, or sense I'm very good or I'm superior, and that what creates the division. And it had to be in place for this Capricorn, the system that is at the moment in place and on its way out, to be able to exist, because without
Yes.
that it wouldn't be able to exist. But it also, because it's not all just bad, but from the other perspective, it served its purpose for us to get to the point where we are now, to understand that actually, no, I am no better or worse than anyone else just
Yeah.
because of, my country of origin or my religion or ancestor line, because this is just like what I was just sharing with you, that this is why I find traditional forms of astrology extremely limiting at this stage of our evolution, because they are very fatalistic, and people feel like they are the victims of their chart and it's all predetermined and there is nothing they can do about it. But this is the Capricornian approach. And that is not true, because your chart is the toolbox that you have to your disposal, but whichever frequency of that planet you're going to tap into, that is your choice. So this is where it's literally all out there for us to be able to interact with and observe, and understand the meaning of and the totality of, to be able to make a different choices if we choose to. But it requires that responsibility to say, I am choosing consciously, so then I cannot blame someone else, just like we doing, at the moment, there is a lot of finger pointing because we feel disempowered. So we feel they did this to me, or, especially with regards to politics, that, we have no control, no choice and stuff. But we, over the hundreds and thousands of years, we co-created these systems together that we now see the totality of manifestation of. But we can also change it, because there is 8 billion people on this planet, and actually these people in the power, there is very small percentage of that 8 billion.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And so Venus is also opposing that North Node, which, is the direction of our future selves, really to, step in to showing up for ourselves, and really to discover who we truly are, because we have so many layers of conditioning, like you said, really hundreds of thousands of years. It's been handed down, and I think particularly us Pluto and Virgo generation, we've come to really work beyond that in this lifetime, and then to share it so that other people can also work beyond it.
And it's interesting actually that Mars already is squaring the nose.
And Mars is squaring the nose.
It is going to be exact, I think, right before the eclipse, because Mars is going to be moving into Cancer shortly. But this is again pointing to the North Node, and the North Node is in a closing phase conjunction with Neptune. They are going to have a conjunction in February. So this is again pointing us into this direction of innovation and leadership, like being self-governed, being your own leader. And this is also why it's interesting the pattern that we had the 2 moons in Aries last year, which was also on 0 and 29 degrees. And the second one of those was the first eclipse in Aries last year, last April 2023. So not this year, that the year ago. And then this year we had the 2 full moons in Capricorn, and we know that Capricorn and Aries, they square each other, right? They square each other because it's like Capricorn is this fully formed manifestation of everything that was before, the previous 9 houses, the belief system and all the rest of it. And then Aries is this pressure that, no, we need to innovate now. And of course, in between the two is the Aquarius and the Pisces, which is saying we need to go beyond and we need to release that which no longer serves. So there was that, that metaphorical square we can imagine. And now it's going to be moving to this Virgo, which which is an in conjunction. It's a trine to Capricorn, but it's an in conjunction to that Aries that started this new cycle in April 2023. So we have a blind spot over here, and we don't know where exactly this is heading, and we don't know, what steps to follow, because it's this, Virgo is all about this accumulation of information and discernment, because it's going to look different for different people, which is this Mercury as the ruler to Jupiter. It depends on your own choice and level of consciousness and how you are willing to open yourself up to different perspective. And that's what's going to determine, the direction where you're gonna go. You choose it, right, consciously or subconsciously. So I just think that it's very interesting to point out these anomalies of the double lunations, the Aries Capricorn this year and Virgo for next year. And again, second one of these Virgo new moons in 2025 will be the eclipse on 29 degrees. So that is no coincidence that we're going to have an eclipse in Virgo 29 degrees, making an in conjunction, an exact in conjunction to the eclipse that took place on April 20th or 21st, 2023.
Wow. Yeah. It's interesting, this change, this inconjunct. I've just heard so many people over the last couple of days, and also feel it in myself. It's like being up against the wall where I want things to change, but I don't know how the change is supposed to be. But there's this, like, it's almost like being on the edge of a cliff. You got a tiger coming. That tiger is the old way. And I have to go somewhere new, and the only way is to jump.
Yeah.
But there's fear. It's like, oh my gosh, here, what do I do? And for me, the energy is to jump. North Node in Aries, Chiron in Aries. You just have to, and there's a matter of trust that has to happen, and faith that, the universe is going to catch you when you jump. So I look at that as that North Node and Neptune conjunction, because that's the direction. Mars is square the nodes right now. What's the action that we're going to take? Mars has already conjunct Jupiter, so we have the ability to act on these expanded perceptions that we have. And there's all kinds of, people are perceiving all kinds of things differently. Very subtle energies. Like I heard about somebody here recently talking about, having this incredible synchronistic event that they weren't aware that those synchronicities were happening, but it just happened. And I remember when it happened for me back, I was in my 20s when I had my first synchronistic event that I was aware of, because it happens all the time, but our minds aren't necessarily open to it. So a lot of people are experiencing that. And then there's this like choice thing, like, where do I act? This is the square. What do I do? What is the action to take? So I find that really interesting, because I've talked to a few people about, and there's a lot of fear about taking those steps, but in some cases, where the universe is pushing us to do that.
And that's literally what you just described, with the tiger analogy and what followed. That is literally what we are. It is and it's not the correct way to say it, but I'm going to say it anyway for simplicity of understanding. It is the death of ego, but it's not like it's elimination of ego that is going to cease to exist completely, but it's death of the mastership. That ego being in charge is the death of that. So that's literally what it is, because if we know we divine and we unlimited, and the universe is, our higher self is always there to catch us, it's always there to navigate the direction of our life, and we know that when we follow this inner guidance, these synchronicities and serendipities absolutely do happen and open up for us, and everything just fall into place like magically, right? But the ego cannot predict that. The ego only knows what already happened. It wants to control. So being on the edge of that cliff, that your higher self is going, go jump, you're going to have an adventure. Like there are all these magical things that are hiding around the horizon, what you might see, what you might experience, but the ego wants to survive. So it's say like, No, I'm not jumping. I cannot control. I don't know what's going to happen, and of course, because that's the whole point. That's the North Node in Aries. We don't know what's going to happen because it's not going to be
Yeah.
like anything we've ever experienced before. And this is where the in conjunction comes in, the blind spot, which is the trust. We have to trust. We have to trust that everything we've gone through brought us to this point, and we are equipped, like the competency, equipped to overcome everything that's coming, because it's already not predetermined in a way that, oh, I have no free will and there is nothing I can do, but we here under certain contract and agreement, and we knew exactly what we were getting ourselves into. So when we look at it from the higher perspective, from this perspective of the soul and the soul planning and the soul blueprint, why we came here at this time, what's happening, like everybody alive at this time, we all knew what we were getting ourselves into. This is not a surprise, but it's surprise to the ego, because the ego is the human. Ego is part of our human experience, not part of our soul experience, right? So when the ego is in charge of our survival here during the physical incarnation journey, but with the square, which is going to be fully formed when Mars is in Cancer, and Mars is going to start retrograde in Leo in December, but then move into Cancer. So Mars is going to be in Cancer for a very long time. Like over the next like 3/4 of a year, really, because it's not going to then ingress back into the sign of Leo until like late April or something. So anyway, either way, Mars is going to start squaring the nodes exact from the sign of Cancer, which is about the identity. It is about the ego attachment to who we were, and that's literally what's happening right now.
Yes.
That's literally what we're going through.
Yes, this is the square, that'll be the square between the North Node and Mars when it aligns. And that's the whole, repeated theme. And I think that I like what you said about the ego not being fearful, but that this new shift is really, as Neptune gets closer to that North Node, this is where we align with spirit.
Exactly.
It's where the ego aligns with spirit. Where we still have ego, it's just coming from a very different perspective.
Exactly. There is a balance, because majority of us, like our inferior, for majority of people on the planet, is the inferior ego, unless you are one of these top percent of few people in the world that are in the superior ego, the ones that say I'm better and I need to be in charge of these 8 billion of people, right? So majority of us are our inferior ego, the not good enough aspect of ourselves, is in charge majority of the time. So with regards to this higher self, which we already spoke about during the solar eclipse in Aries, because Mars was in Pisces, and that's what we said, we are co-creating this new direction, this new reality, in co-creation with the spirit, because Mars was in a sign of Pisces. And this is what it is, it's not about, like I said, the ego is not going to cease to exist, because it is part of the human experience. It's like the archive of our memories, archive of our physical walk through life, through the ancestor line. It is all the same archetype, Cancer, but it's about the balance, because at the moment, majority of us, and the majority of the time, throughout the majority of our lives, we are under control of our inferior ego. They cannot do because not good enough, and we remember why, and we remember what our parents said, or in this case, what you shared last time, your grandfather said to you, because of what he's gone through and what he was being said, and this was meant to determine the entirety of your life. It's a copy paste, right? But now we say no more. I'm not going to be determined by these past labels, past identities, or ancestor line, because that's not who I am. It's part of me, but I don't have to stay playing the same role that's already being played. And this is the where it has to come more to the balance, where the higher self, which doesn't polarize and doesn't feel inferior or superior, it just is what it is. I am that I am. It wants to help us to balance our reality, where understanding where our human ego has to be in charge because of crossing the road, not putting fingers in a socket, or putting your hand on a stove when it's hot.
Exactly.
This kind of thing, right? But when it comes to the bigger picture, like, okay, what is my purpose? What am I doing and stuff? The ego cannot give you the answers.
No. This is the higher self.
Exactly.
Which to me is totally aligned with Neptune anyway, because that's where we all come. Yeah. So yeah, that's really interesting. I was gonna say, what other alignments did I notice?
Well, we have the in conjunction, don't we, between Mars and Pluto?
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. So this is an adjustment period again, and a blind spot between what is dissolving as we've moved back into Capricorn. We're getting a taste of really our own empowerment. But we don't see that that's what it is
Mm.
when aligned with Mars. Like we don't really know what to do because of the square to the nodes. But we are empowering ourselves. I mean, we're becoming our own authority. And I think as Mars moves into Cancer, as you were saying, that's when we'll have the opposition.
Mm.
That's when we'll really be able to see what it's about.
Well, also that opposition is going to be active for like 3 or 4 months because it
Yeah,
starts, well, Mars is in Cancer, Pluto in Capricorn, but then Pluto is going to go into Aquarius, Mars into Leo, and then Mars back into Capricorn, Capricorn Cancer. Pluto is going to stay in Aquarius, but it's going to be ongoing for a few months. This opposition will be active for quite a long time, which is again about balancing,
it's about balancing. It's going to take time for each of us to align our frequencies to this new frequency. And the universe gives us time, you know. And if we don't catch it around this time, the energy will come around again in the future. So we will have the opportunity, but I feel like if we can, I mean, there's so many people that I've talked to here recently that are like between a rock and a hard place. They
Hmm.
can't stay where they've been and they're afraid to move forward.
Hmm.
And I just keep telling them, do the forward movement, even if you're afraid, you
Hmm.
know, act and act scared if you have to, but it's like the tiger is coming.
Hmm.
You, you have to do something, and you have to trust in something, and then that in itself I think changes our perspective, because once you can see that you can trust in that, then you can act from that place all the time.
Yes, that's the thing, that the universe gives us the opportunity to learn through the experience that we can trust it.
Yes, yes. But and I think that that's a lot of Pluto through Capricorn. The whole energy was for us to see that through where we've been trusting in our governments and our societies and all of that. And people, I mean, particularly in the United States, are we are quite polarized right now.
Yeah, yeah.
And um, and who knows what's going to happen here in November. My prediction is just something absolutely out of the ordinary, which will throw us back on ourselves, because that's what's going to happen. We
Well,
have to
because you're
be,
still having the Pluto return, right?
yeah, I think
I'm pretty
so.
sure that now that Pluto is going back into Capricorn, is reactivating your Pluto return that's been ongoing for you for like a year now, or
Yeah,
something just over. And we know that whatever happens in the US is going to impact the entire world. So,
absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. So it'll be interesting to see how things change. But regardless of that, on the individual level, we're going to have to make the changes, because it's not the outside in that creates change. It's from the inside out.
Exactly.
So while all these external things are happening and causing internal disruptions, it's those internal disruptions that are going to help us to adjust ourselves so that we can find balance within. And once that happens, the more of us that happens with, then other people can start to do the same, because not everybody will be, internally driven that way, because so many people are aligned with, the system. That's the reality and the perspective that they have, and it's really, they don't have the ability to perceive anything beyond that yet. Not everybody's, reached that awareness.
But eventually it will all Eventually it will all catch up with itself, whether in
Oh,
this
yes.
in this physical body, in this incarnation, in this chapter of our soul journey or not, because this is where we head in. So there are people who are, just like we were saying with regards to our own family members, there are people who are not meant to change because they
Yes.
play the role of the contrast. There are people, the shadow players, that are not going to awaken or change or suddenly become light workers. No, this is the role they came to play, and it's a very important role to create the pressure, the square, to create the
Absolutely.
pressure. This is also the Mars square to Neptune, which is happening right after this new moon. It's literally happened the same, like within few hours. So this is what we're playing with here, that we are getting, like, just like you said, the tiger is coming and the universe is pushing. So it's not like you can decide if you're ready. It's like, no, the time is now and you have to decide, but whatever you're going to decide is up to you. So this is the thing. And I also feel with what you were saying and what you're tapping into with regards to November, which we know that there's the election, and this is why I was being guided to relocate prior to this date, because there is definitely something cooking for sure. And what I feel that the objective or the goal of whatever it is that is going to be happening, it's for us to find the place back to humanity, back to our heart, because whatever is going to be happening outside of us, when we have at the moment all these reasons to hate one another, because of whatever you can pick, there is so many things to pick from that divide people right now, but at the core level of that, what are we really fighting for? Just to be right? What is the objective? Like, what am I fighting for? If I say, okay, this is what I believe in and I'm convinced about this truth, if the other person say, okay, you're right, like, what am I trying to achieve with this? So I feel that whatever is going to be happening on the global level, eventually it's going to turn us to the objective, well, to the goal of what is the point of this? What are we fighting for? What are we achieving through winning this battle? Which is that, like, at some point, what do we actually want? It's not even about it's the ego wants to be right, which is also what I'm sure we discussed last time. When you speak to people's ego, there is no winning because the two egos just wants to prove each other wrong and right. There is no winning. So this is what I feel, whatever is going to be taking place in our world, potentially for the few past months of this year, but especially, throughout the nodes being in Virgo and Pisces time, the upcoming year and a half from January onwards. This is to help us understand that what is actually the purpose of being human and being here. Yes, evolution, absolutely, but to have a human experience and to actually understand that, like, all these people around us, like, this is what enriches our life. Imagine if you were the only person on a planet, and don't get me wrong, I'm an introvert and I prefer my quiet and solitude, but it's the relationships in my life that make this life so much richer, so much richer. So when we understand that actually this person, whether we agree or disagree on certain viewpoints and perspective, which none of that is true, it's just a perception of reality, because it's not the universal truth, right? Majority of the things we are arguing about, they are not the universal truth, they are just a perspective, subjective perception of reality. But what are we achieving by being proven right or wrong? Does it make me feel happier? Does it make me feel, more expanded in my heart? Does it allow me to connect in the heart-centered space? So this is what I mean. Whatever is going to be happening outside of us, eventually we're going to come to the realization that no matter who is right or wrong, either way we're losing, because what is the point if we're going to go killing each other, hungry, the whole thing is falling apart? Then are we actually having a fulfilling life, regardless of whether we're right or wrong? So eventually we are going to understand that none of that really matters. What really matters is the connections in your life. And I feel that this is really what's going to be the turning point towards turn us into creating these, communities, networks of people that we can trust and rely on. I don't know, I just feel a big shift is coming, and it's not necessarily going to be induced in a comfortable, painless way, but whatever is going to happen is going to eventually get us there. And that's again the choice, like how hard the awakening has to be, if we work with these energies in a more peaceful way, then it doesn't have to be so hard. But it's up to us how far we want to push the energy, for us to get to the point where we need to get.
I like that. It just made me think that in the evolution of it all, we're going to start off after Capricorn breaks the old way down. We're going to start off in these small groups
Yes.
that are based in Leo, love in the heart.
Mm.
This is the alignment that we have with Pisces, that meaning has been not in our, I mean, we have love, but we don't have love for each other. Like we're having hate for each other and destruction and this whole Virgo energy that has come across with our different cultures. Oh, that culture is bad, this one's bad. Oh, our culture, we're the greatest culture in the world. I mean, it just is but eventually that energy is going to have to transform to all of humanity. And after Aquarius, then we'll go into Pisces, where we'll really be able to, settle that into a worldview.
And isn't that interesting that that's going to be, I mean, if we if we don't take into consideration the war we are experiencing at the moment on a different level, Pluto moving into the sign of Pisces will be technically 100 years after the Second World War finished, 2044, 45, so that will be like the 100 years after, right? 99 years later. So it's interesting to me. It's interesting, but the another thing, which again, I know this is a very polarizing subject, but the one thing that really touched my heart in the speech, that is again a reason for more division between people, with the RFK speech, and without going into politics. But the one thing that really stuck with me, which what he said, was that we need to choose to love our children more than we hate one another. And the child as the Leo, the child is the Leo, and this is what unites everyone. But because this was the objective of his speech, that we don't have to agree on anything, but the one thing we all agree on is that we love our children, and that's the Leo. That is the key to the future, this Leo child, the joy, the childlike innocence. Because we all, no matter what is your political orientation, belief system, cultural, whatever, each culture, everyone, even when you look at the animals, they love their young, they love their children. So it's like, even when we see, like in a nature, like, okay, do two lions necessarily get on with each other? Everybody wants to be the king, right? But if it goes about saving the young, they will collaborate, right? So that's what I mean. Like, this is what really touched my heart from that speech, which I know is a very divisive, the divisive factor for people to fight over. But that sentence that he said, and I was like, this is literally it, for us to choose to unite because of the future of the children. If we can't do it for one another because we hate each other, but we know that every one of us loves their child. Well, I mean, unless the people are super traumatized, obviously exceptions apply. But yeah, so this was really, I think, paramount turning point in that conversation, because it really points the torch exactly what we are playing with over here. The point.
Leo. Absolutely.
The child. Yeah.
And it's interesting because I like that what you said. It's not just our own children, it's any children. And it happens in nature where a wild animal will come in contact with a child, a baby of another species, and take it and try to help it survive. Like, there isn't that. It's just so interesting.
Right.
And I think that that's the energy. I mean, I love that. That's the Leo energy that we're working toward in the sign as Pluto moves through Aquarius. And, we're aligning with that right now with Mercury. Mercury's in Leo. So it's an important energy. And we've, been through Leo season. We've had the Lion's Gate, and I think that all of these planets moving through that are helping us to align with the heart, which is so important. Now, transferring that outside of ourselves is a whole nother journey, but I think that that's where the Pluto and Aquarius comes in, where we'll start off with these smaller groups and then move that outward. I mean, we all definitely have, it's like, I don't know if I should be talking about political things, but I'm gonna. Like what we've had here at the border where we had a lot of immigrants, refugees coming through across the border, and what they decided to do was take all the children away from their parents. Like, and they still don't know where those children are.
But why?
It's like, whoa. And how many people felt in their hearts like, what a terrible thing for a child to be separated from its parents.
Exactly.
But then there's the dichotomy of, I mean, who knows who's running this world? It's not something that I would have ever chosen.
Yeah, that's also what I've been saying to my friend, like, like the divisive figures that are on a political stage right now. I wouldn't want to be any of them. We can judge and criticize and shoot the arrows all we want, but would I want to be in the same position? Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
No.
So in this case, even if I don't like that person or if I don't agree with them, I honor the courage of the soul to play that role, because I wouldn't want to play that role myself.
No. Yeah.
And that also kind of completely shift the perspective, because I'm like, better you than me. I rather play a different role. So that's what I mean. These people that we are all shooting arrows at, these are some very brave souls.
I mean, they really are.
Yeah, because they knew what they were coming into, that there's going to be a lot of division and hate and separation under their name.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's all about these adjustments that we are forming and creating in the world.
And also those adjustments are to try to seek balance between what's inside and what's outside. In other words, this hierarchy or superiority, inferiority complex that we've all been dealing with since Pluto was in Virgo. I mean, before that, but Pluto and Virgo generation came to confront and change that energy. Yes. And it's only now that we're getting to the first quarter trine, which is like so surprising to me how time moves so slowly. But that's what we've needed to incorporate these energies within ourselves. And not everybody will incorporate those energies. Other people sometimes are. But this new moon in Virgo to me is, I think it's important because the nodes are getting ready to move into Virgo. Like we're going to be doing some confronting. Now, I haven't looked at the astrology up till then, and I'm curious now because I think these nodes being in Virgo are going to be very significant to the original conjunction between Uranus and Pluto. And I just haven't looked to see what that significance is, but.
Well, I just feel that the fact that the last lunation with the nodes in Libra and Aries will be the new moon in Capricorn, the fourth lunation in Capricorn, and the first lunation of the nodes in Virgo Pisces will be the full moon in Cancer. That's very telling. That's very telling.
Really. Yeah.
That's telling, because this whole year of Capricorn that we are experiencing right now, which is all about this, we have to take responsibility for the life we want to create, because otherwise we are, in our mind, the victim of the life that somebody else is creating and controlling for us.
Absolutely.
And with this Virgo Pisces, it is about the healing, adjusting, and letting go of that, and creating these changes in our life, which are not easy, but there is kind of no other way. And it is about the competency and self-mastery. And just like you said, with your friends that shared with you that they are between the rock and the hard place and they want the change, but they don't know how and they're scared. And you said, just try, because every single innovation in this world happened on mistakes, because we were brave and courageous enough to make mistake, because otherwise we would never learn anything.
That is the truth. Mistakes is the only way we learn.
Exactly.
If we're sailing through things, we're not learning anything new. It's
just the copy paste and regurgitating of the old pattern.
It is. And that is coming to an end.
Well, especially as the North Node and Neptune are going to conjunct in Pisces, it's definitely coming to the end for sure.
It's coming to an end, and Pluto will also move forward into Aquarius, and we'll be done with this movie.
Yeah, and I mean, I believe by the time we have the solar eclipse in Aries 2025, Neptune is in Aries. I believe it's happening simultaneously.
Yeah, but it doesn't stay there, because that
no, it's going to go back into Pisces. Yes.
Yeah. I think when it moves into Aries permanently is when the conjunction with Saturn happens.
Yes,
literally the alpha and the omega.
Exactly, right? 2026. So I feel, and this is also something that came through my channel, that we are being spoon-fed by the spirit, just like with the Pluto in Aquarius back and forth, because like when you have a baby, you cannot give it chicken. It has to go through the mother's milk or formula, mushy food, simple food, yes? And eventually you can add on, because if you give a Big Mac to a 3 months old or 4 months old, it's going to not end very well for the kid, right? So this is what's happening with us now. We were being spoon-fed, of a formula, Pluto in Aquarius, number 1 last year, 0 degrees only. Now we go a little bit further, 2 degrees, so we get in a mushy food, and then Pluto is gonna move, and then we're going to get more adjustments because of the Neptune, Saturn, Uranus back and forth. But 2026 is the year. It's the year.
I mean, it really is. It's the shift. And so this new moon in Virgo is about taking those steps forward, because it's a step by step. We're not gonna like be ourselves. We're gonna have to make mistakes. We're gonna have to adjust ourselves. We're gonna have to, but having a direction in mind, and the direction is the North Node, and the direction is also Mercury in Leo. I mean, we have to go toward what's coming from within, what's emanating out of us. Those things that have been suppressed generally because they didn't fit within the societal norm, they were punished out of us or judged out of us or whatever. Those are the things that I feel like we've come into contact with since the Lionsgate, to like really focus on what gives us joy. You hear all the time, people are like, oh, I hate this job that I'm in. I hate going to, but it's the job that you dislike, you've taken on because of the system that says you need to have these things. And so it's a further suppression of the true self. And that's why people just dislike it. Yet, to not have a job is scary, because the mind, but there's this, I like to call it the safety net of spirit. If you make that leap, you never know what comes to swoop you up if you don't make that, that leap and see that. It's the seeing that expands the consciousness. It's like, oh, when this happened, I was able, new people came into my lives and I got a new job and I moved on forward. But yeah, you can't listen to that, somebody telling you. You really have to experience it to have full trust in it. And so I think that part of what's happening is this, we're having to make internal adjustments through, Jupiter's been in Gemini. Our consciousness is expanding. Everything's expanding. We're seeing all the different points of views, and we're going to have to see what aligns with us. And this is the, part of the undercurrent that's moving us through, which is we're individuating from where we've been We are stepping into these roles that is innate in us, but has been hidden, and it's scary. But you know, we're going to do it anyway. The brave souls will do it first. And once you do that, and other people that aren't so brave see, then they'll be willing. So sometimes it takes the brave souls to take those steps first.
Well, that's why people are on different stages of their journey. I wanted to say levels, but level is not the right word because it's Capricornian. It's again hierarchy. But I feel like, yes, there are people who are a little bit ahead of a game, and we are all at the different stages of the road to pull each other up. And then if this is not your time, then you come back and you be born to these brave souls. So then it will be kind of like easier because you already will have the guidance within the bloodline, within the DNA. So that's what I mean. Like in essence, everything is perfect, even though it doesn't feel that way, and it is scary, but it really is, because it is either way. It's taking us where we are meant to go, and where we agreed to go on a higher soul level, and everything in between is just just the smoke and mirrors, right? Smoke and mirrors.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like there's so many people on the planet. I think we're all brave souls to come in and experience this shift.
Oh, for sure.
I think
Yes.
I mean, we're all brave and we're all going to come in. I like how you use stages instead of levels. We're all coming in different stages of our evolution.
And
So yeah,
sometimes actually playing the role of the unawakened is actually much more challenging. We might think it's the other way because we feel like, oh, I'm awakened, and how challenging it is because we are experiencing the contrast. But actually, despite the fact that the soul wants to awaken, but there is a contract that, hey, you need to be the contrast, so you are not allowed, or not allowed, but you signed up for this, and that actually is even harder. Just like we think that the people who are on this, this further down the journey, stage of their evolution, that they play the difficult role, and sometimes they play, sometimes they don't. But sometimes it's the most difficult to be the primary school teacher because you need to explain the basics and the kids don't understand, and then it's just built up on each other. So that's what I mean. There is not really one role is more important than another, or one role is going to be more rewarded than another, because everything is needed. And even what you were saying with regards to this, we tapping into our joy, but not many people even know what that means, so that's why this also happened for me personally, with this Lion's Gate. What really got activated was the ego, the fear for survival, not the joy that, oh yeah, it's fantastic, but the opposite, the opposite, that which needs healing, which is preventing us from feeling the joy. So this is why, people, rather than feeling all joyous and happy and exalted, are feeling the opposite, because this is what needs healing. Because that is actually the trine between Mercury and Chiron, which we also had the free of.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. Exciting times, I say. Exciting times.
It's seriously, it's just crazy, it's just crazy. Like, you can't make this up. That's for sure. The one thing that's for sure is you can't make this up.
No, you can't. No, you can't. Well, I will be seeing you really soon, won't I?
1 week. 1 week and a day. Yes.
Yeah.
So
I'm looking forward.
yeah,
I'll be getting your room ready here this week.
And I'll be there for the next one. So I am really curious how you're going to record it.
And we'll have to sit in 2 different rooms, otherwise we'll have feedback.
Otherwise, I'll be like sitting over your shoulder, and we'll be like a couple.
We can do it like that too.
Yeah, like a relationship counseling. Like, hey, what do you think? Yeah, we have to sleep on it, see how it will work the best.
Yeah.
All right. Do we have anything else to add, or we maxed out?
I think we're maxed out. This is the journey of our evolution, and we're at the point where we're adjusting ourselves. And this won't be the only adjustment point. We have them regularly.
Oh yeah, that's the thing. If we think that this is it, we need to just get through this loop and we'll be done. No. It's
No.
never gonna be done. The evolution continues. It's
Yeah.
just like going from the whatever we are at now, the primary school, secondary school, again, no better or worse. It's just we are ready to go to the next stage of the journey.
Yeah.
So yeah, so this is where we at.
Yeah. Well, awesome.
Cool.
Yeah, I liked this chart.
Yeah.
Definitely a lot. And I've already started diving into the next one, so.
Oh, I haven't even seen the eclipse chart, but I know it's
Yeah,
conjunct Neptune. That's all I need to
actually,
know.
yeah, I don't even think I noticed the eclipse, although I should have. I'll go back and look again.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So yeah, that is happening not so long from now. So yeah,
not so long. You'll be here for the eclipse.
yeah, for both, which is interesting because I was in Mexico when it was the previous eclipses, and of course that's where we had the visibility, and you had visibility in where you are to a certain extent anyway. And now I'm
Yeah,
going to be in the other place which had the visibility for these
wow,
eclipses.
interesting.
So yeah, the spirit is definitely like just pushing my to this old like to the places which don't make sense to my logical mind, but I'm sure there is a just like they say that Mercury or Venus, when they retrograde, actually when you monitor it, and it creates like a like a shape, like
Yes,
a flower or
a
something.
flower pattern. Venus does, I know for sure.
Exactly. So I wonder, how our life, all our back and forth and moving from one place to another, like, when we cross back to the spirit form, just like these planets moving, what pattern we created? What is the pattern of
Right.
our life, when we just keep moving and back and forth and, these different stages of our journey. So I wonder what is the final pattern of of our life or in each incarnation, and then we start a different one.
Yeah, I mean, yes.
All
So you
right,
can see here, I'm going to take this down. There. Now I can
here we
see it.
are. Yeah, I lost all the light. It started as a sunny day and now it looks like it might be raining, but
Yeah,
nothing
we're
new
gonna
being in
get
the UK.
clouds. It's cloudy here too. So
And I was hoping to wear dresses when I come to see you.
it should be warm. I mean, oh, I was gonna look and see what the temperature was, but it's showing me something else. So
It's good,
70, it's 72 right now, which is cool for us. It was 92 or something yesterday. It was so hot.
Oh, that's more like
So
it. Yeah, because like there's been some sunny weather here in the UK, but
yeah,
nothing exciting. But yeah.
yeah. Well,
Anyway, Adrian,
awesome.
it's been a pleasure. Tell people where to find you.
You can find me at JessKarenAstrology.com, and I'm also on Facebook, and I'm on YouTube, JessKarenAstrology.com.
Awesome. Thank you again, Adrian. It's always a pleasure, and I'm really, really looking forward to meeting in person again. It will
Yep,
be
it should be fun.
fantastic.
It's
And
going to
thank
be
you.
good times.
Excellent. Thank you everyone for watching, and we see you next time.